We have 6 commissioners present. Commissioner Pence, just to give you a heads up, will need to leave at 7. And I believe Commissioner Brown will be arriving sometime before 7.
Well, let's just try to get it done before Commissioner Pence has to go. That's probably the best way forward, you know. All right, fine. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency, Tuesday, December 14th, 6 p.m. By Zoom, by video conference. Let's call the roll.
Ed Halwinko.
Yo.
John Mailing.
Here.
Steve Pocky.
Here.
Matt Pence.
Here.
John Levin.
Present.
Jen Belliot.
Here.
I think that's it for commissioners for now.
Okay. Do we have any public comments? Is there anyone who's registered to speak before we get into the details?
I don't see any attendees, so does not appear there is anyone here for public comment.
Then let's move into receipt and discussion. S21-587, One Manresa Island Avenue, Norwalk Power LLC. Are they represented here?
They are. So Miss Andrea Steele is here to answer any questions, and I will go ahead and share my screen and go over some of the basics. The application. So this is bottom. Sorry. Okay. Can you see the site, the map that I'm sharing?
Yeah.
Yes, can you zoom in a little bit or? make
Yeah,
a
let
little
me,
bit?
let me try this.
When
you
they
see it?
say site, they're talking about the entire site, not just the site where the work is being done. Because the northern part of that is all forested and is not involved in what was being undertaken in the southern part, as far as I know.
Correct. So the area of activity is limited to kind of this area where it says Manresa, right about here.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
So I can go to, let me go to a aerial photo. Oh, I've left the earth. Hold on a second. Oops.
This is activity that's related to what was proposed and agreed to in 2017 to do relevant testing and measurement of the inland freshwater wetlands, as I understand it. And now they have the answers that they were scientifically searching for and are outlining next steps. And we're asked to comment and consider.
Correct.
All right.
So this is the area of activity here in relation to Manresa as a whole. Sorry, my
Right.
scrolling is so off. So again, here. And you're correct. You saw an application before them to do kind of an initial test area. And they are now coming back to complete that work. And so on this page, this is the access road that leads to the north this way. This is to the south, and Long Island Sound is kind of off the page here. And there are 2 inland wetlands where they are proposing to do this remediation, which basically involves the removal of the top foot of the soil and then the replacement of that layer with clean fill and then replanting. These two wetland areas are tidal wetlands. And so again, it's these two areas, wetland 4 and wetland number 3, which are the freshwater wetlands that would be remediated. They're also doing work in tidal wetlands, but you don't have jurisdiction over those. And let me just get down to the
Just curious, who does have jurisdiction over the tidal wetlands?
that would be the state of Connecticut. So they've also applied to the state.
Okay.
So the state regulates all tidal wetlands.
And what entity within, do you know what entity within this?
Yep, the DEEP, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Their Water Resources Division.
So who is here representing NRG?
I
Anybody?
don't believe that anyone is present from NRG. Or if you are, you can.
No, this is Sean Connery. I'm from
Oh,
NRG.
there you
And we have Andrew Scano, who's the plant manager, who's also on from NRG.
Oh, okay.
Andrea Steele has also been previously identified. She is a consultant to NRG and works for Aptum, as is Andrew Walker, who is also on the Zoom here from Aptum. So we are here to answer any and all questions you have. Andrea can answer the detailed questions about the application. Andrew Scano and I, the plant managers, can answer any other questions you might have about NRG or the site in general.
Good evening.
This is pretty straightforward as far as inland wetlands goes. I mean, Manresa is a whole different issue, which we're not going to address here, but there are some aspects of this plan which may impinge on the balance of the property. On page 3, I'm not sure of the I think the activity form. It states that approximately 910 cubic yards of sediment will be excavated from wetlands W3 and W4 and managed in the staging area on site. What does that mean, to manage excavated sediment?
Hi, this is Andrea Steele. I'm with Aptum. So we are planning to remove the sediment and then transport it to an on-site staging area for dewatering before it is then transported and loaded for off-site disposal. So we'll be piling the material in that staging area that's outside of the wetlands.
Okay, so the management has to do with just making it lighter for transport, getting the water out of it. Is that kind of what management is with the soil?
Yeah, essentially, yes. All the
Okay.
handling associated with that, yes.
Okay, so it's going to be, the soil's going to be transported off-site, and it's just going to be put in the staging area until it's suitable for transportation.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, chime in if there's something here that you're particularly interested in.
How long is the dewatering period? How long is the dewatering period?
How long is the dewatering period? It'll be several months because we're planning to do the tidal wetlands and the freshwater wetlands all as part of the same mobilization. So, and those areas, the tidal wetland areas are larger and will take more time. So we're looking at several months of operation of the sediment management area.
So, I mean, presumably you're going to cover this stuff. I mean, dewatering and leaving it out in the open doesn't seem like a productive enterprise. That has nothing to do with, the application, but it's just a curiosity. You're going to pile it up the water to the sediment to dewater it, you need to cover it, right? So that the rainwater doesn't continue to keep it wet.
Yeah, everything in the sediment management area has it's not gonna, it'll be like tarps and stuff.
Okay.
It's not gonna be like under a roof. It's not in a building. It's a field managed dewatering area.
Right. You'll just stretch tarp over it, that's fine. Um,
Ms.
Okay.
Steele, can you repeat the name of your consulting firm and give a quick summary of the purpose of this project?
Sure. Aptum is the design engineer and environmental consultant for NRG. The project will remove sediment that has been deemed impacted by metals from historic operations at the facility. So we'll remove that sediment and backfill with clean sediment and restore the wetlands. So we'll oversee a contractor doing that work.
What are the metals, and have you selected a contractor?
We have not selected a contractor, and there's a variety of metals, and it's different for each of the wetlands, but arsenic's one of the primary metals of concern in the sediment.
So due to the volume of the cubic yardage of material that would be excavated and then returned to the wetland, it does warrant a significant regulated activity under your inland wetland regulations. So a public hearing is required. And so I would, if you don't have any additional questions for the applicant or any kind of other questions or concerns, we would have to schedule that public hearing for a future date tonight.
Okay, but there are a couple of things that might be called into question at a public hearing. One of which is the introduction to the SLR report. Is that something everybody understands? Inland and Tidal Wetland Report from NRG. It's dated April 2021, and I'm on page 1 of it. Do you folks, are you with me on this? You NRG representatives?
Yep, I think they're listening.
Good. Well, in that introduction, there is a statement. Please note that both tidal and inland wetlands are found on the other portions of the 150-acre property. However, SLR was tasked with only delineating wetlands within a small portion of the site. I would like to know where those other inland wetlands are on the Manresa site. And I don't know whether or not these folks are prepared to say where they are, but the statement was made that others are to be found, so they must have had some kind of research done to see whether other wetlands were there.
Yeah, hi, this is Andrea again. So there are other wetlands on the site. So we've been investigating this property for years and have done prior wetland delineations, obviously since we were before this commission in prior years. And the wetlands shown on these plans are the ones that are the focus of the work. The other wetlands are there's one other wetland near the entrance of the site that's not going to be impacted by any of the work. So it's not included on these plans, but the delineation that SLR did for us more recently, we had to have an updated delineation. Army Corps requires that we have delineation within 3 years of applying for a permit. So that was the primary goal of having a fresh delineation done by SLR just for the wetlands that were the focus of this work.
Okay, I get it. Alexis, do we separately have a map that shows where these other wetlands are?
I'd have to look. Give me a second.
Well, it's a concern.
Yeah. I don't know if we have a map of all the inland wetlands on the property. And I don't know if that the statement in the SLR report referred to the was referring to the large tidal wetland
Well,
separately.
he specifically meant, whoever did this specifically says both tidal and inland wetlands.
Oh, okay.
So one would assume that that means wetlands that would come under our purview. And maybe somebody can come up with where they are. If not tonight, then by the time of the public hearing.
Yeah, I can tell you where the one inland wetland that's not shown on our plans, where it's located, and it's right at the entrance to the site. So where Longshore Avenue, where Manresa Island Avenue comes off Longshore Avenue in the northwest corner of the site, there is a wetland, a small freshwater wetland in that corner of the site there, in that area.
Where your main gate is and your security office is that where it is located?
Yep, just in the woods there.
Okay, so you guys built a berm along Longshore Avenue. And I guess what you're saying is that the area behind that berm is inland wetlands. I mean, your people must have measured, you must have done core samples or whatever, or had some reference point to say that that's inland wetlands. And that's just, what I'm looking for is something that will allow us to see why what's being done on these southern inland wetlands isn't also being done on other wetlands that may require remediation.
Yeah, as I said, we have been involved in environmental investigation at this site for years. And so we have done site-wide sediment sampling in the wetland areas, and the ones that require the remediation that we're proposing are the ones that are shown on these plans. Wetlands 3 and 4, the 2 freshwater wetlands, wetlands 5 and 6, the 2 tidal wetlands, and wetland 1, which is the one in that corner by the main entrance, it does not require remediation.
Okay. It doesn't require remediation according to DEEP, I suppose, or the Army Corps of Engineers? Or is there in fact no coal ash or anything else in it, or near it, or under it? Let me put it another way. Do you have a document of any sort that describes that wetlands, that gives some detailed information about what is the consistency and the environment in which it exists? I know it's not part of. It's not part of the remediation, but what you're saying is that there are other inland wetlands on the property and that they don't require remediation. And I'm perfectly willing to basically say fine with that, except that if you're basing that information on some kind of research, and I'd love to have that, if you could share that with us, I think that would be great.
We have lots of documents that have been submitted to DEP regarding the investigations on site, and I can certainly dig up the ones that that are presumably shareable, that are recent. That'll take me a little bit of time to do, but I think that we could have it to you before the hearing in January.
That would be great. Thank you. Commissioners, anybody else? There's some.
No, I was gonna say that's a good idea, even if it just lists out each inland wetland area and just a brief description of its health and what it requires as far as a cleanup.
It's very interesting to look at the photographs that were included as part of that SR, whatever it was, SLR report. It shows in one of the inland wetlands, a small birch tree, which presumably if you're going to excavate, you would be cutting down, I presume. I mean, you can't excavate under it. But the photographs are interesting. Most of it's Phragmites, as one might expect. There's also an extremely interesting list of self-imposed controls and requirements by NRG on endangered species, including the diamondback terrapin and the turtles, and the various bird species, which are extremely important to the city, and which seem to me to be well and satisfactorily addressed. But I would recommend those remarks to, I mean, I would recommend those that report to the rest of the commissioners. I can tell you that there are at least 9 osprey nests on Manresa, but to my knowledge, and to the report states that none of the nests or the nesting places exist on the wetlands that we're looking at. They are elsewhere. They'll be a concern to whoever's working on the saltwater wetlands, but they're not going to be any kind of concern to us. But I appreciate the fact that NRG did the research to be able to dig around and find that stuff out. One example is that if you're a worker and you see a diamondback terrapin moving around, that you should not remove it from anywhere near. You should just put it near the site and make sure it's facing the direction it was moving when it was first captured, which I thought was remarkable. Does anybody have anything else for the applicant on this? Before we when will we have the public hearing, Alexis? What's our objective? I mean, we're not going to be meeting again for a month.
Your next meeting date is January 11th. So applicant, in order to have the public hearing, I post a notice in the Norwalk Hour of the pending public hearing, but it's the applicant's responsibility to send notice of the hearing to the abutting and adjacent property owners by certificate of mailing. So that would need to be done 10 days prior to the January 11th meeting. So your choice is either January 11th for public hearing and mailing those out on and or about the last day of December, or January 25th would be the next public hearing. It really, I think that I don't know if the agency necessarily has a preference for either of those. It really has to do with kind of meeting all those regulatory requirements for notice and your ability to get those letters out in a timely fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any preference, but the applicant may. Do you folks have a preference? I'm sure you want to get it done as quick as possible, but is January 11th too soon?
We do want to get it done as quick as possible, but the distribution of that mailing during that last week of December could be problematic, and I worry about committing to that without having the appropriate staff in the office to complete the mailing. So perhaps the January 25th meeting would be better for us.
Yes, I agree.
Fine. I mean, it was only 3 abutters anyway, as far as I know.
Yeah, there's more than that, but
Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, 25th is fine. Do we need a motion for that?
yes, please.
Okay, I move that we schedule a public hearing on this application for the January 25th meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Voice? Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We will see you then. Have a pleasant holiday and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. You too. Take care, everyone. Thanks for your time.
And I'm sorry, Cheryl, I did not see you arrive. When did you?
6:25 maybe,
Perfect. All right.
just a couple minutes ago.
So noted.
Okay, Cheryl, I don't know what page it's on, but there is a page where they talk about what they want to put into these sites once they've got everything, dug out and new soil brought in and all the rest of it. And if you get a chance to dig into the stuff online that shows that would be great. You just have to scroll through real fast. I don't, it's like 55 pages or something, but you don't, if you could just look at that, because
Of course.
you know this stuff better than the rest of us do. Okay. Discussion and Alexis, is it appropriate to move on now to discussion and decision?
Sounds good.
All right. 51.5 North Bridge Street, construction, S21 582, 51.5 North Bridge Street. At our last meeting, we had said that we would like to have a schematic that was professionally put together. And we got one, and then today we got an updated one. That's very helpful. Is Mr. Felix here?
He is. And so I just want to give you an update. So this is what I received digitally earlier today. And then just moments ago, I did email out to all of you commissioners two staff memos, one on this property. So if you have not checked your email, I recommend that you check your email for an updated staff report. Just to recap, it's a small little lot. I think it's not quite 2/10 of an acre. The front is along this right of way. The zoning setback lines are these dashed lines here. And so within the gray area is where a house would be constructed. And then also shown is the proposed 2-foot-high retaining wall that was discussed earlier that would be a limit of disturbance. So it's not marked out, but this is 16 feet from the wetland, which is here, to the limit of disturbance, which is the lines with the X's.
He says 21 feet in this sketch.
Sorry. So 21, I don't know exactly what Mr. Delius is showing with this 21-foot setback, wetland setback. That gets you to this dashed line out here. But the actual activity would come to where the silt fence is, which is 16 feet as far as I can measure.
Okay.
I think the 21 setback is the, I think what Mr. Delius, the surveyor, is trying to say is that that no building will be constructed past that line.
Yes,
I
yes, that's
think
what
he
it
get-
actually
he-
meant.
Right, he gets confused between the building setback for zoning, which is a setback, and then the wetland setback, because we don't have a wetland setback, but Mr. Delius often adds the word setback inappropriately to his surveys. So in the memo, I talked about how, so this is pretty much the site plan, in addition to some other materials that Mr. Felix had submitted previously. But this is the most accurate depiction of the location of those things. And another plan, which I can flip to in a minute, was I'd call it Mr. Felix's site plan that shows the areas of grading, of lawn, of non-disturbance, and again, the general location of the house. I know that Mr. Felix is working with an engineer to come up with a stormwater management plan, which is required by the city drainage standards to capture and retain all runoff from the site. And he's looking at potentially an area here for underground retention galleries, and an area here for underground retention galleries. We don't yet know the location of those. Additionally, you don't know the exact dimensions of the proposed house. I don't think that Mr. Felix has yet kind of committed to architectural plans, and he can chime in a second and explain once I'm done. But what his survey is saying is that the proposed residence would be within the grade area, and the grade area is approximately just under, dimension is just under 20 feet, and this dimension is just under 50 feet, I believe. So some kind of, normally straight shaped house structure within the gray area, proposed driveway outside of the upland review area. The 50-foot upland review area is shown. And that's kind of all that I have, other than I pretty much just reiterated what I have in my memo. The other thing that's in the memo is that you as an agency have certain timeframes in which you need to render a decision. And that's 65 days from the receipt of an application. The 65 days for this application is up at this meeting unless the applicant grants an extension of time. And so what I would encourage is some additional conversations with the applicant to make sure that you understand what's being proposed. And if you're comfortable with it, you can go ahead and make a decision to approve. If you're not comfortable with it, I would encourage you to articulate that to Mr. Felix so that he can grant you an extension of time so that you are comfortable at the next meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Felix, feel free to add anything that.
Yes, basically, the gray area is the structure, the actual structure of the house that's going to be in it. To facing the house at the back in the corner, because I'm working with engineer Mr. Pitt, and we are proposing to keep the ground basin for the drainage, stormwater drainage, away from the wetlands area, to make sure that we have no interference. And also the retaining wall, we're going to have the silk fence to block it out, and on top of the retaining wall, basically just going to have an additional fence, kind of fencing out from the property and the wetlands area. Make sure and the upland also that we have no access to it, and we won't have any interference into the future.
Okay. Well, okay. So we have a stormwater retention facility which is planned for the lower left-hand area. If I read you correctly, Alexis?
I think there might be two, so there would be one.
Two.
One kind of maybe in this area.
Yes.
And
One,
then
because
another one in this area. So
Okay.
I'm assuming that the roof is pitched, and so there's the kind of the back of the half of the house might go to an area in this area, and then the front of the house would go to somewhere here.
Well, it seems clear from this, and Mr. Felix, I have to thank you for this because it's very easy to understand this, and you've made it, you know, a much better process for us to be able to have this. But the house is really squeezed in as best as it could possibly. I mean, its maximum use is being made of every possible square foot, but that's fine. I mean, that's all right to do that. It's not all right to go beyond it, but what more, Alexis, would we need to?
Could I chime in actually?
Yes, by all means.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that this is head and shoulders way more information than we've gotten previously. So thank you for investing in that. I think we're still coming up a little bit short in order for me to be comfortable. I won't speak for anyone else. So as Alexis mentioned in her draft resolution, a grading plan is going to be important. Stormwater management plan is going to be important. An existing and proposed landscaping plan, including, you know, if any trees. I know we've discussed trees in the past, but just, you know, as a general rule, that's typically what we expect to see. As far as the retaining wall goes, typically we see, you know, a little bit more detail as to how it'll actually be built. I like to see a limit to the work area. I mean, I know a little bit about how houses are built, and I have a hard time imagining that we're going to have an easy time keeping excavators and equipment and whatever, you know, within that 2 foot or, you know, let's say 4 foot space between where you've got the silt fence and the whatever side of the house that is to the right on the plans. So yeah, I think, again, thank you for getting us this far, but I think we need to go a little bit farther in order for at least me personally to feel comfortable approving this.
Alexis, do we indeed have, is there a draft resolution on this property?
So I'd mentioned that I had sent out an email this evening.
I didn't see one. It says in the email I got that that you didn't do a draft resolution. Maybe you did one subsequently. I don't know, but I just haven't seen one.
So I sent out an email this evening at 5:11.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so
basically, to paraphrase it, John, it's just two draft resolutions. One is to deny due to incompleteness, and the other is to approve with a few conditions. But all this really is, we don't have to vote on either one of them if we are given an extension by the applicant, is how I understand it. Is that right, Alexis?
right. So the core of the memo is that if you have any, that your deadline to make a decision is this evening, and you need to make a decision. The only reason you cannot make a decision is if the applicant grants you an extension of time to consider. And so then, because my job is to try to figure out what you're going to do and what's going to happen at a meeting, in the event, so you don't, if the applicant agrees to a extension of time and feels that they can, I assume that they probably want to hear from some other commissioners as far as the completeness of the application. But so if the applicant grants an extension, you do not need to make a decision tonight. If the applicant decides, well, no, let's bring it to the vote, I'm done, then I have given you commissioners in my staff report 2 different potential resolutions. One to approve with conditions that tries to kind of fill in the blanks that Steve was talking about. And then another is denial due to incompleteness. But hopefully there'll be some discussion in advance of that.
as mentioned, in terms of the construction part of it, because the original plan is it's approved because I want to make sure that the wetlands and everything is preserved untouched. The original plan is to make sure the retaining wall is built first, so that we could protect the wetlands, retain the retaining wall, put out the seal fence, and put the other fence over the retaining wall. So during construction, we don't have no access to the wetlands and the 16-feet upland area. So make sure that it's protected. And in the actual foundation of the property, from if you go probably about 15 feet closer to the upland area where the structure is going to be built, that will be a crawl space, not a basement. So we're just going to do the trenches for the crawl space.
Okay,
So that we don't interfere with any other thing. So closer to the wetlands, we're not going to have no basement. It's going to be a crawl space. So very, very little excavation will be done in that area.
okay. I'm still twisting in my chair about the 5/11 email, which I did read, but I didn't see any draft resolution there that we could go over to be able to move this. I mean, I don't think there's anything fundamentally or incorrectably amiss with this application. And if there's fine tuning that needs to be done, then I'm all for doing it as quickly as possible.
So Steve, just going back to your comments about what you would like to see. So you would like to see the actual location of the proposed stormwater management system, sounds like.
Mhm.
And then you would like to see some sort of landscaping plan. I think that on the, just going back to his future or past submissions, it was proposed that above the wall would be lawn and that beyond the wall would be
Untouched.
no activity. But to
Okay.
clarify, you're looking for some kind of like a buffer enhancement planting?
No, I just couldn't recall if there was any trees coming down or whatever within the upland
There's no
review
tree.
area. Right, and okay,
Okay.
all right, so that you can scratch that one from your list then, Alexis, that's not a big deal.
Okay, I mean, there are trees, there is some vegetation within the upland review area that would be removed and it's not shown. But most of the wooded area is within this wetland and buffer area. There may be a few trees kind of in this area and, well, not along this property line, but well,
Okay,
this is outside of the upland review area. So,
We can't see your screen right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I've been pointing. You've missed it all. Okay, so
Thank you.
thank you, Cheryl. Within the wetland and the proposed 16-foot wide buffer is most of the trees. There are some trees kind of in this area that are technically outside of that area that would be removed, I believe. And I can go back to,
And reset.
I'm just trying to figure out your, let's see. So it's actually this one. It's not super clear, but this is that the side property line that is kind of on the bottom, if you will, of the survey. And then these are the trees within the wetlands. This is largely kind of open. And then there are some trees along this edge here. So I think that these would be removed.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So basically, in terms of trees.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch any of the trees because I went out there, we did the engineer and I, we did the measuring in terms of where the proposed structure was going to be, is going to be. So we won't be touching any trees. The only tree we'll be pretty much getting rid of is the one which is not in the wetland area. It's to the right on the left hand side, up from where your cursor is, Alex. So,
Okay,
yeah, where the driveway, just to in this area,
Okay.
there's only one big tree that we are going to take off for the driveway to fit in. That's it. Other than that, and this is outside the wetland area.
Okay, this I understand this, but this illustrates my point, is that I'm not worried about anything being done wrong, but we really don't know until we see it on a drawing, and it's a very simple thing to add. And you're gonna have to do, like, for example, a stormwater anyway. You're gonna have to show,
Yes.
like you said. So it's sort of like, can we just get it all on there and so everybody can move forward? Is really all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're trying to sneak anything by us. It's just
No, no. Actually, because we were hoping that the surveyor would be done with his stuff, and then would take it out. You know, the engineer would get it to do his part. But I only got it back from him this afternoon. Actually, this morning I forwarded it to Alexis. So and again, he communicated that it's a busy time of year for all surveyors. So that he actually did his best to help me out. So as soon as
So would you give us a little more time?
Yeah, sure. Because actually, because
Yeah.
I do, I do want to get this thing done, but because I'm supposed to take it to Pitt by tomorrow. So
How much time do you think we
say-
would need, Mr. Felix, to get a little more information on there that we just talked about? Can you give us another month, or I'm sorry, and John, you've had your hand up for a while and I keep butting in.
No.
John Levin does.
I think at this stage of the game, I know that Mr. Felix was very concerned about whether or not he was going to be able to have an acceptable proposition to put before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think probably he has reason to be less concerned about that now. But I do think that we need to take another step before we go forward on this. And I think that, filling in the blanks on the survey, if he will give us an extension, will, I think probably resolve this.
and then Commissioner Levin does have his hand raised.
Yeah, I have some questions. I'm wondering, I did have a chance to visit the property maybe a month ago. What is the provenance of the wetlands delineation? Who did that, and who and what does that date from? Does anyone know?
Yeah, it's Mr. Otto Thiel delineated the wetlands in June 2019.
Okay,
So he did kind of a sketch. It doesn't really, the sketch isn't great because it kind of has this funky shape, and in the end, it's something more like that. So that on this map, the staffeled area is wetlands that were previously field delineated on the adjacent condos on Norden Place.
okay, and that was done using the soil sampling and soil survey process required by the
was.
state. Okay,
By Mr. Yep. And so Mr. Thiel is a certified soil scientist.
okay.
So
The reason I ask is I know that there was some there was a recently constructed home across the street. And I think that's at either 147 and a half. Yeah, I think it's 47 and a half. It's the large, maybe 2.5 story structure right there. Yes, that's the one. So that was built, and I think that might have been built since the survey. And a neighbor, not the occupant of that home, but another neighbor said that that home was built in such a way that all of its water actually drains onto the property of 51 and a half. And I don't know, I have no clue how this stuff works.
No.
so I don't think so. If they,
No.
I don't know the
Okay.
history of the house, but generally that's not allowed to capture your runoff and then direct it onto a adjacent property that you
Right.
don't
It,
own.
it's, and that seems like the kind of thing that's not allowed.
No,
But the
it's
neighbor,
not. But a lot of
was-
neighbors often think that. I will tell you that from the
Right.
calls that I get.
right, so a neighbor said that that's actually what is happening. Whether it's happening or not, of course, I have no clue. But a neighbor said that's what's happening, and also that when there's heavy rain, significant portion of the property itself floods because the water drains from the neighboring homes.
Yeah.
And
Well, so I mean, I would, so when you do a site, I would encourage you to disregard what you heard and what you just told. You're not having a public hearing on this application. And so information, outside information, or talking to other people about the pending application without a public hearing is really not the best.
Okay.
We have a word for that,
That's-
but so it's, you know, it's accepting outside information with outside of the public hearing process. So normally
actually-
during, yeah.
right, yeah, I have no ability to ascertain whether any information like this is accurate or not accurate.
Right, and out of fairness, during a public hearing, the applicant would have the right to cross-examine statements or
of
rebut
course.
statements made by a neighbor. So,
Of course,
Um,
of course.
and so just so the property may puddle, but that does not necessarily make it a wetland. So you can get areas that puddle frequently. We've had really big puddles with ducks in them, but they're not inland wetlands.
I understood. I've learned over the last year that the definition of a wetland is defined entirely by the content of its soil and nothing else. Okay,
With
and then
reference-
I'm wondering, I know Commissioner Clocky had raised the question. What are water retention facilities? I don't have an understanding of what that is. Is that like, or what's contemplated? It's not in the survey map that was presented. And I would like to know what is contemplated for that purpose.
Mr. Felix, do you have any idea of what you'd propose for your stormwater retention?
Actually, we were thinking about different measures of taking care of that. This is why the engineer and I, we are working very closely, because we try to make sure that everything is being done, and he has a few different ideas. And with reference to the gentleman who just spoke a few minutes ago about 47.5, I did my research. There's no such water coming down this way. Hence the reason I end up going with Pitt, because he was the one who did the water retention and the drainage for 47.5, and he did a great job, because during all the heavy rains and the storm they had recently, I actually went over there before the closing, or before I closed on the property, to make sure, and it was totally dry. So after which I got a copy of the plan and of the other house to figure out what was done to make sure that I actually get somebody. And the engineer was the one who actually did, the one I'm working with, Pete. He did it, and he did a great job. So hence the reason I'm working with him. So as of now, we have not finalized something. So as soon as by tomorrow I hand it over, so we're going to sit down and figure out the best way to do it, and which is going to be effective for the area and the wetland area. So as soon as I get that information, Alexis, I could provide that to you, and then you can hand.
Okay, so then it sounds like the applicant is amenable to a extension of time so that you are not required to make a decision tonight. And so then the next question is, their next meeting is on January 11th. The agenda would generally be set on the Tuesday before, which would be the 4th of January. And so would you be able to add the information regarding the stormwater proposal, some notes regarding landscaping and tree removal, and some notes regarding kind of the grading and filling that I think you had originally had on another plan, but it's just not shown on this one plan that they can reference kind of everything. Could you get that in by January 4th?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Then we can look forward to going forward January 11th at our next meeting.
Yes.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mr. Felix.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Guys,
We're about to lose Matt, I think.
thank you, Cheryl, for stepping in, and everybody have a safe holiday.
You too.
You too.
Take care, Matt.
Good night.
Matt, too.
Okay, S21-584, 6 Lori Lane, Mr. Yeager, correction action. We have some late arriving material in terms of descriptions. I've read his new narrative, and it's much better than the last one, in my view. It's a good one. We just bring us up to speed, Alexis, a little bit. We don't have.
Sure. So you may recall that at the previous meetings, you had expressed concern that to the applicant that when you had discussions at the meetings, it sounded like everyone was on the same page, but that you really needed something that showed the location of the activities and gave some more detail regarding the planned restoration of the impacted wetland area. Like you mentioned, the applicants provided a narrative that talks about the removal of all the wood chips from the wetland area. And then he's also proposing to plant within the area that will be raked out of wood chips, 2 trees and 5 shrubs. The trees would be on the smaller side at the time of planting, but would grow into something larger. All plants are proposed as a 2-gallon container size. So that's what's proposed. This, I think Mr. Yeager is present. Still. Yes,
I'm
he
here.
is. And so the same thing applies as far as timing. It is your deadline to make a decision on this application tonight. If the revised narrative, along with the 2 maps, map 1 and 2, provide sufficient information for you to render a decision, there is a draft resolution to approve with conditions. If not, then I articulate that, and I suspect that this applicant would also grant an extension of time to delay your making a decision so that he could make adjustments and further revisions to his application. Or if not, similarly, I think you could make a decision to deny because of a lack of information and clarity. So that's that. I know Mr. Commissioner Clocky has his hand raised.
I reviewed the draft memorandum and the 2 pieces of information that have been provided recently, and I would love to see this thing move forward and let Mr. Yeager get on with his life. That's all. I'm happy to make a motion, but it's probably too early.
So do we have, here I am again, do we have a draft resolution on this?
Yeah.
So
it's
in
the
that
same email.
email that I sent out this evening, and just after 5, there should be 2 attachments, 2 Word documents. And those are the actual staff memos.
Well, I would, I concur with Commissioner Clocky that we should let Mr. Yeager move forward on this. So if somebody else wants to pick up the ball and make a motion on this, I'd be all for it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I can
just,
make a-
oh, sorry, Steve. I just finished reading it myself. It's very detailed in here. So it looks good to me if Steve made a motion, or if you'd like me to make a motion to move forward.
I just wanted to give anybody else a chance to chime in. And now I keep talking over Commissioner Levin. I'm sorry.
that's
my
okay.
timing is terrible
That's
with you
okay.
tonight.
So I quickly reviewed it as well, and I move that the memorandum be accepted by the commission.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Voice vote, I think would do. Alexis? All in
I'm
favor?
really, oh, go ahead.
All in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
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 I'd say the motion carries. Thank you,
And I
Mr.
believe that was unanimous, correct?
Yes, it was. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yeager. If you're still with us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on, S21 586 8 Sheffield Road. Here we do have, at least I have, a draft resolution. I have visited that property and it's a mess. And there's a very, I think, kind of key wetland that's adjacent to it, which this proposal seems to protect and slightly enhance. So I'm pretty much in favor of it, but do commissioners have any questions, concerns, or whatever about 8 Sheffield Road? I'm not hearing any. Then I would move to accept wetland permit application number S21 586 for corrected action. I would move that it be granted to Land Tech as described and with the conditions outlined in staff memorandum of December 8th.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Let's try voice. Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the application is granted.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, enforcement actions, 325 West Cedar and 464 West Cedar. Here we are back again. Alexis?
Okay, so this is a show cause hearing. And so I've listed 2 of them, and I guess I would recommend, since they involve the same activity, that you hear them together. And so just for 1 second.
Is Ms. Zavalieva here?
Yes. Yeah. And so when a show cause hearing is a hearing that is required when your staff issues an order. State statute requires that a show cause hearing, or which is a hearing that allows the respondent or the recipient of the order to show cause or to provide testimony as to why they think that perhaps there should not be an order. And so the way that it works is that I will give an overview of why I issued the order. review the activities and the location of the wetland and watercourse. And then the respondent, which is the owner of 325 West Cedar Street, and anyone from 464 West Cedar Street can give any additional information. And then all of that information is used by the agency. And at the end of the hearing, the agency will make a decision whether to uphold the order, to withdraw the order, or they could uphold the order and modify it. So that's kind of the process. I will try to share my screen to go over locational information. Let's see this. Okay, so you should see an aerial photo. Okay. Successfully sharing. So Connecticut Avenue, I-95, this is what is this called? Kohl's, I think. Yeah, Kohl's, the ShopRite Plaza, West Cedar Street is here, and then it makes a right turn and goes along here. And the property at 325 is here. The property at 464 is here. So the property at 464 is owned by Eversource, formerly CLNP. And then the property at 325 is owned by Miss Savalieva. My apologies for mispronouncing your name, I'm sure.
Oh, you're totally right.
Okay. Thank you. So the area in question, let me switch back to as Mr. Commissioner Moling mentioned, some of you have seen these two properties before. There was some activity in 2017 and 2018 in which they order was issued, and that was not fully ever resolved. Eversource had the wetlands field delineated, and so this green is the approximate location of those wetlands. And then I'm just going to turn the wetlands off because on this it's not very. So that wetland, you know, I think you can remember its approximate location. And what we cited most recently, the work. So on December 6th, 2021, we sent a cease and restore order that cites that that there were recent activities on the property at 464 West Cedar Street that is directly east of the property at 325 West Cedar Street that had involved the alteration of a wetland with the construction of a stone wall and associated grading. So those are the activities that are cited. And this is a aerial photo from April 2019 where there appears to have been kind of a pile of rocks. That pile is now a wall that extends further along in this direction here. And I will try to switch to site photos. Let's see how I can share this. So I'm going to start with sharing an email that actually the respondent just sent me at 6:41 this evening during the meeting that says, Here's the latest survey of my property. And so again, this is West Cedar Street. The driveway comes in this direction, house, and then the property down here is 464 West Cedar Street. The outline of 325 is this dark line here. It shows the location of the wetland flags that were delineated. This says by Otto Thiel. So it looks like there were maybe two separate wetland delineations, one by Otto Thiel and then one by Eversource, who hired Tom Petrus. So this shows wetland flags number 1 through 8. And it shows the wall in this location here. I don't know what the date of this survey is, but I assume it's fairly recent. Stop my share there. And share some more. Sorry, this is so clunky. And I think to make it easiest, I'm just going to share my, we'll do it this way. Let's have different formats. So this is a survey from 2018 that again shows the same wetland line number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the stone wall ends at wetland flag number 8. What was just sent was the wall extending out to here, which seems to back up the activities that were cited in the order. How small are these on your screen? Is that pretty small? Let me try to stop share and I'll try to share
That was pretty
photographs.
clear. Those photos, perfectly clear.
Okay.
That's taken from West Cedar Street, right? Shooting down the wall.
Yes, this is actually on the property at 464. So the wetland is to the left in this area. This is looking south down the power line. So the house at 325 would be off here on the right. The key things to note here are the new rock wall and the lack of vegetation along the back side of the wall, adjacent to the wetland. And again, this is the fill that I refer to. This is looking in the opposite direction towards West Cedar Street. Again, new wall, the recently disturbed area that's covered with leaf mulch, and then the wetland and adjacent buffer to the right in this photo.
And this is
This
not
is just
a
another
retaining
photo
wall.
looking to the south. The same
like
wall. I've just walked down along the wall. But you can start to get some of the feel for how the grade drops off into the wetland a little bit.
Alexis, it's not a retaining wall, it's just a wall, correct?
Correct, it is just a wall.
Okay.
But I do believe it's built on the fill that was never removed out of the, that originated in the 2017 order.
Right.
But for now, this is just dealing with the wall itself
Okay.
and the ancillary grading. So again, this is looking north back towards West Cedar Street along the wall, the fill slope, and then again, this is the wetland area here. I'm going to switch back to other photos, I think. So this shows the lawn area. It's not a retaining wall. And then it goes down to again, the wetland area. This is standing in the wetland, looking back at the house, the tower, and then the wall is along here. And I'll just show another photo from goodness gracious, 2018, standing in the same location with the house and the tower and what the grade looked like in 2018. More kind of standing in the elevation of the wetland, and again, it kind of the grade goes up, and then you have the wall at the top. And let me just get to the other photos. Just a few more photos of the wall. With in this photo, the house is to the back of the photographer. And then these are just some more close-up photos of my feet and the newer fill material that the wall is built on, in my opinion. This is looking up towards West Cedar Street. And again, this kind of line of newer fill material, including leaf debris, the newer fill material without any vegetation growing on it, adjacent to the wall. And then this is the area where I had walked down along between the wall and the wetland. And just me for scale. Then almost done here. Try to share one more thing. Let me. Okay, I don't think I can, I'm trying to go back and forth between PDFs, but it's not letting me. So this is what it had looked like standing in the wetland. These are wetland flags here back in 2018. And then this is the area where there is now a high wall and you can't quite see the house. And there is no indication of a wall there previously. This area here was a wall that was constructed in 2018. It's kind of hard to see through the weeds, but there's no wall here. And then one more. Couple of photos in 2018. Thank you for your patience. So these are photos from what it looked like in 2018. Again, this is wetland flag number 4 here. There are remnants of some rocks that were deposited in 2018. This is fill up against them, and they included some rocks, but also construction debris. So this is the area where the wall is now constructed along here. This is standing in the wetlands. You can see some standing water here. And this is looking up to the back parking lot. The house is just off the screen here. Here's the tower to the south. And again, the wall is now along this area here. And one final photograph looking from the driveway. Again, the southern tower. There was a wall that was being constructed in 2018 by the respondent, and then the wall has been extended to this area here. And this is kind of the same view. And again, it's my opinion that this fill that was cited in the 2018 order was never removed. So that's, it was the construction of the wall that prompted the issuance of the order. I believe that the wall is just within the wetland or extremely close to it. There are no wetland flags out there that I could see today. Ms. Williams and I did a site inspection and met with Mr. Fedor, who I believe also lives at 325 West Cedar Street. And so that is why we issued the order. What the order recommends is that they stop all work, that they submit a corrective action permit application on or before January 25th, that the that whatever is in that approved corrective action permit be implemented fully, and that the actions included within the corrective action application need to include removal of any fill or construction debris within the wetland itself. So that is the order I issued. There are two similar looking orders. The wetland regulations, when you look at what is a regulated activity and who is bound by those regulations, the state statute says that you need to have a wetland permit for any regulated activity by anyone conducting the activity or maintaining such activity. And so the property owners at 325 West Cedar Street were issued the order for conducting the activity because it's pretty clear that they were the ones that were engaging the activity. But it was on a different property owner, a different owner's property. And that property is owned by Eversource, and it's known as 464 West Cedar Street. They also received an order because at the end of the day, individual property owners are responsible for their property, and they are cited for currently maintaining the violation on their property.
Okay.
That's it.
So it would be if Ms. Savalieva wishes to comment, this would certainly be a good time.
So hi everybody. My name is Fyodor. So fill from the 2017 was completely removed. There was a stone which turned into the wall, and it was the wall is I'm looking at the wall as a retaining wall because all the animals coming in to the property and wildlife. And recently, after a couple winters, the wall started just basically you know, not getting in a good shape. So I stopped by in a city hall in the planning and zoning and ask, what's the, can I repair the things like stones falling off the wall and stuff? And then planning and zoning said, if there is no problem with the Eversource people, we don't see any issues. And like Alexis said, the wetlands are really close to the this retaining wall, and there is some sort of application needs to be involved, and you know, and etc.
Okay.
Just to clarify, I know that you said that you'd stopped by the planning and zoning office, and according to the email that I received, you had stopped by on the Friday, November 19th. But you had specifically asked what jurisdiction the historical commission has on the construction of a wall. And so the answer, the response that you received from planning and zoning had to do with not requiring any review by the historical commission. That was the answer to your question. And they also, the person that responded to you added that they copied their colleagues from zoning and the conservation departments, as you may need to work with them on permitting as it relates to their concerns.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Well, I think we have a reasonable summary of what the situation is and what the property owner's concerns are. There is a very clear and apparent violation, and well, at the same time, it would seem to me that the resolution of that violation might not be terribly difficult, but that's not our purview. It's not up to us to say, you know, you should do this or you should do that, or you should do the other thing. But what we need to do is to say, all right, that notice of violation should be upheld, or it should be modified, or it should be withdrawn. For me, I move that the action be upheld, and that we move to the stage of figuring out what we need to do to get everything in compliance. So that's my motion before the commission.
I second that motion.
Any discussion from commissioners?
I wanted to just ask, Alexis, I think in your email, you mentioned that you hadn't heard from Eversource. Have you?
Yes,
from
so
them
thank you. I had not heard from them when I sent out your meeting packets. I did speak with a representative from Eversource today. If you review the order, I had sent original paper copies to two different people at Eversource, and I emailed to the one person that I had an email for, but that email bounced back. But then in reviewing all the information and correspondence related to West Cedar Street from 2017 and 2018, I found some additional names and emails, and emailed those people at Eversource, and the representative from Eversource, basically their property management group, called today. And so basically they have received the order. They understand that that the work is on their property. They understand that they did not do the work. And they are waiting to hear what the agency determines with the orders.
But that's a subsequent order of business.
Right, but it is important to note that they are aware, you don't want to have a show cause hearing if when either any of the respondents aren't present or because they're not aware that there's a show cause hearing. Eversource knows that there is a show cause hearing tonight. They are not attending. Double check to make sure they're not in the attendees.
Alexis, did Eversource indicate that they were aware that the work was done, or were they unaware?
He was not aware that there was additional work done, but he had mentioned that someone had been out there, and then I think Mr. Fedor, right, had mentioned that you had met someone out at Eversource.
No, I
out
met
there
with them
recently.
several times. Yeah, we were going around, and all they were saying that make sure there is no construction materials or equipment or anything on the property. With the stone wall, they were pretty much satisfied because it looks like retaining wall. Like I said, it's blocks the wildlife from coming to my yard, and basically it's on their side they satisfied with the what's the property right now looks like.
Right, and for the commission, I don't want to get into kind of the whole property thing, other than that for the enforcement order, both parties are noticed, and if there is a corrective action permit application going forward, then the property owner where that work is working will need to give consent for applying for that permit and for doing actual work on their property.
Alexis, should I withdraw my motion that's on the table?
No, I think this was just discussion of a motion and a second.
Well, then I think I'll call the motion, and we're going to have to deal with Eversource again in a minute. But it's moved and seconded, and is there any further discussion from?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So do I understand correctly that the violation occurs on the property of 464, but and not on the property of 325? But the owner of 325 is the person who's responsible. This is a novel occurrence in my 1 year as a commissioner on this commission. I'm not aware of the non-property owner being cited, but I guess that's part of the normal procedure.
Yeah, and so it goes back to the regulations, and
Okay.
It's the conduct of an activity. So anyone that conducts an activity,
Okay.
a regulated activity without a permit is
Regardless of whether the
subject
property.
to the regulations, right? So generally the fix-it involves the actual property owner, but the violation itself is anyone that conducts activities without a permit.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. No, I have no more questions.
Anyone else? And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. The enforcement action is upheld, and we can move forward on figuring out what we can do to help these folks get it squared away. Okay. Moving on to the Eversource end of this. V211033 464 West Cedar Street enforcement action. So Eversource has responded in some way today, but they're not here for the show cause hearing. So do we need to delay this? We do not.
No, I think that not to speak for Eversource, but they acknowledge that it appears that 325 West Cedar Street has performed regulated activities on their property. So they concur that
So could
they,
I,
on
sorry.
their property, there is a violation. Yes.
So can I move to uphold the order, please?
Mhm. Say again?
So I'm moving to uphold the cease
I second the motion.
order.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. It's unanimous. The action is upheld. Moving
Okay,
on
so-
to,
Could I, Fedor, for the minutes, when I type up the minutes, can I have your last name?
KAC
A, I'm sorry?
HKAC
A,
Have it in the email. Oh, okay, maybe not. Okay.
no.
ACHA NAU.
So that was, if you could just start
Machado.
again.
KACHANAU.
KACHANAU.
That's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what will happen is we will send you a letter updating and explaining everything that happened this evening. And we'll send you a permit application form. And I certainly can meet one or both of you here at City Hall to go over what it means.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Moving on to item 7 on the agenda, bond release, S20 56015 Adams Lane. Release a bond 8554 for revegetation and landscaping. Was that applied for, Alexis? That refund?
Yes, so we did receive an email on November 18th noting that to the best of my knowledge, I'm in compliance with the restoration plan I submitted, and I'm requesting a refund of the bond held. The total bond comes to $8,554. $7,360 of it is technically to be held for 2 full growing seasons. And the plan was completely implemented this fall. So the request is a full release, which is your prerogative if you want to do, but it would not be in line with what you approved, which again, the condition says there's a full bond, but $7,360 is to be held for 2 full growing seasons. What is eligible in staff's opinion is $1,194. Those portions were held for seeding, sedimentation erosion control, and other non-planting items that the permittee had to complete.
And does staff feel that that has been satisfactory?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I
Ms.
move to, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just
I
gonna
move to
shout out
release
to-
1194. But you said no, and that thought I meant I
Yeah.
could keep talking.
Okay, it's moved. It's moved. I'll hold off till discussion, but as far as these sorts of things are concerned, if somebody has applied for them in writing and they have complied with the terms that were originally settled, then it seems like it's a good thing to do. But if they haven't complied, then no. And if they've partially complied, then we go along with that part that they complied with and leave the rest of it. Anyway, the motion's on the table. Anyone care to second? All right, I will. I second the motion. All right.
And can I just confirm that, because I was distracted by my talking, that the motion was a reduction, not a release?
I wanted to release 1194, which is what you said covered what we could release after a year, but the rest needs to be held on to until we met the 2-year.
Thank you.
Right.
All right, so we had a second, now discussion. So what were you, who was the shout out to? Alexis?
I'm good.
Oh, I thought you were going to give a shout out to somebody.
And the written
Oh.
application was for what, for how much?
I'm so tired.
8554.
8554 is the total.
And you're recommending that all of that be released except for 1194 of it? Am I getting that
Other way
correct?
around.
The
Other way
other
around.
way around, that 1194 is eligible for release and
Okay.
7360 be retained.
Understood. Okay, that's clear now. Thank you.
Commissioner Clocky moved it and Commissioner
Brown.
Brown seconded it, I think. Right, Cheryl? Okay.
Yes.
So all in favor, again, a hand vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None, hearing none. We will refund whatever that amount of money was that Steve mentioned.
Got it.
And
So I do have a request for another, there was another bond release request that did not make it onto the agenda. If you would, you can either say no, or you can make a motion to amend your agenda to add another bond release item.
Could I move to amend the agenda to add another bond release item, please?
second. All in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. The agenda is amended to whatever the number is for bond release. Over to you, Alexis.
Okay, thank you. It would be, we've received another written request for a bond release for application or permit number S21580, which is 8 Leslie Lane. It was issued September 2021. This was a corrective action plan at the end of Leslie Lane for removal of wood chips and planting of plants. A $3,335 bond was required, and that was posted. The permittee asks if, quote, if the committee would consider returning the remainder of the bond posted, given the progress we have achieved. The language, again, of the permit is that there's the $3,335 bond, 2,662 of that is eligible following 2 full growing seasons. That leaves $673 eligible for release upon kind of site stabilization and removal of wood chips, which was completed. So it's kind of the same.
Who's asking for this? Who's the person?
This was Mr. Kershey, Anthony Kershey, who presented the application before you.
Right.
Could I
So
move to
kind of the
release
same thing.
670?
We've done it all. Can we get it all back?
Can I move to release 673, please?
To
Which is
release it in the full amount?
not 673.
Oh,
which is-
673.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
First discussion, no discussion. Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? Carries. 673 to be refunded. Moving on to approval of minutes. Does anybody have any changes, additions, deletions, comments about the minutes, the November 9th meeting? Hearing none, I move the approval of the minutes from November 9th.
I second that motion.
All in favor or discussion? Sorry, no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Comments of staff.
No.
Alexis, Are you still doing 2 full jobs at the same time? That's not your comment, that's my comment for later, but I just thought I'd throw it in here.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, I'm
No.
looking. Clearly, I cannot multitask. That is very clear. Yes, I am doing multiple jobs. Keeping very, very, very busy, but all good. All very good for the city as far as what we're working on here in the Planning and Zoning and Conservation Office, and definitely keeping us very busy with a lot of public interaction, which hopefully is obvious from the discussion during the various application reviews. We do a lot of talking to the applicants, trying to get them settled, and likewise meeting with people with violations or and everything in between. You have no idea.
I think we have a little smattering of an idea.
So I don't really have any comments. I do want to, before I get back to my comment, there was one question raised in the chat regarding the Dreamy Hollow Drainage Project. And the commission is not discussing that tonight. If you're still listening in, that was previously approved by the Conservation Commission a little while ago. So you're more than welcome to contact me, Alexis, in the Planning and Zoning Office to ask me any questions during office hours. And my information is on this city website. And then the only thing I wanted to mention was to you commissioners is that I have reached out to the city clerk, encouraging her to recommend to the mayor reappointments for commissioners. I know that 2 of you have terms expiring January 1st. And the way that the Conservation Commission appointments are written, you cannot serve after your term has expired. But unfortunately, the city clerk's office has the rule that they don't put anyone up for reappointment until the term has expired, which really doesn't make much sense to me because you guys meet the same night as council. And that means that no matter what, you miss a meeting in January if you're going to get reappointed. But I've been arguing otherwise for 20 years and I give up. So I did check the council agenda. There are no appointments or reappointments to the Conservation Commission going on tonight, but I will continue to ask for that to be on the agenda at the next council meeting. But what that means for the remainder of you on tonight's meeting is that you please come to the next meeting. And if you can't come to the January 11th meeting, let me know right away, because you will only have 5 active commissioners for your next meeting. Commissioner Levin and Commissioner Mailing will not be commissioners. They'll just be John's out on the street. Come over. You know what I meant.
Gone but not forgotten, John, I think.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So I know I was fortunate enough to be able to fill the seat that was unfortunately vacated by John Verrill, and I guess was appointed towards the end of 2020 and have served on this commission for, I guess, now over a year. It has been quite a learning experience, and I have a really short speech. This is going to be like hopefully just a minute, but I want to say the Conservation Commission is a really heavy lift. I had absolutely no idea how much work would be involved when I asked to be appointed to this commission. I want to say that I am really impressed with my fellow commissioners, with the quality and attention given by each and every one of you. and the devotion that you give to this responsibility. I'm really impressed because it's a lot of work, and it's, you know, hours of concentration and diligence. I also, it's so much work that I really do not have the ability to continue beyond this. And I had requested Tom Keegan not to have me reappointed for this commission. Really been an honor to serve. And I wish to express my appreciation for the leadership and guidance provided for our commissioners by the commission leadership, our chairman, John Mailing, and vice chairman, Stephen Clockey. I think you guys really do a fantastic job, and we're very lucky to have your leadership and guidance. And lastly, I'd like to express my tremendous appreciation for the dedication, professionalism, hard work, and wisdom, which is consistently displayed by the commission staff member, Norwalk's Senior Environmental Officer, Alexis Cherichetti. You guys are really doing a great job. This is important work. I'm sad, like our departed commissioner, Farah Marin. It's the vast majority of the work of this commission turns out to be the responsibilities of the IWA, the Inland Wetland Agency. And that's unfortunate. I know that there are both opportunities and conceivably additional responsibilities that should be borne by this commission that it's able to address. And we learned, in the last year, I learned about some of those. It includes the Open Space Fund, the Open Space Inventory, and an invitation for the commission to make recommendations for additional land preservation to the city council. And there's probably an even longer list of things that the Conservation Commission can do in its role as Conservation Commissioner. And I'm hoping that it will be able to do so in the future, but I don't know where you'll ever find the time. The IWA responsibilities really make the conservation opportunities and responsibilities a poor stepchild. IWA takes up substantially all of the time, and other things seem to get crowded out, which I think is sad and unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. Lastly, I know in a prior meeting, our chairman had mentioned HB 6441, which is state legislation that provides certain opportunities for, I guess it's sort of under a broad general statute to address climate change remediation things. It's a lengthy statute. I started to read some of it. It includes creation of an inland, not waterway, you know, storm drainage agency or something like that. And also provides for other implementation of other things, which I believe Norwalk qualifies for, including assessment of a transfer fee for property transfers in order to fund the Open Space Fund. Anyway, all these things are in the lap of the Conservation Commission, and I'm hoping that in the coming year, there will be an opportunity to address some of them. That includes funding for the Open Space Fund, utilization of the Open Space Fund, and hopefully recommendations for additions to land preservation. That's it. You guys are doing a great job, and I just simply wish there were more hours available to do even more work. Just hard to imagine. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve on this esteemed commission.
We're sorry to see you go.
Yeah.
I didn't like the tone that you started talking. I was like, okay, I'm down with this. And then it turned into with like parting words. Can we not, John, or Mailing, can we not accept his resignation? Or like, I guess it's not up to us.
We can absolutely refuse to accept his resignation.
Or at least we just make him feel guilty about it.
Oh, well, yeah, we can certainly do that. I mean, his He's spurred us along. We were perhaps, edging into complacency, and we were given new energy, and we were challenged. And, I think that's precisely what any sort of commission like ours ought to have happen.
Yeah,
The
I
worst
concur
thing is
entirely.
if we all sit around and say, okay, fine, and look at our watches, So go in peace, Commissioner Levin. We will always be on your side.
Thank you.
Before everyone breaks into tears, I have no comments as a report of the commission chair. So I would like to suggest that we give the honor of moving for adjournment to soon to be former Commissioner Levin. But he just turned himself off.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that honor. I wish to move to adjourn my last meeting as a commissioner, hopefully last meeting as a commissioner of this esteemed Conservation Commission in Norwalk.
We'll see. I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So long, everybody. Happy holidays.
Thank you very much, John Levin.
Happy New Year.
Nice-
Good luck and
nice being
good
on the
luck. You guys have a
commission,
lot of work to do.
Yeah, just so.
Bye.
Good night.
Right.